One of my top 5 human experiences is swimming in the sea. I love the feeling of salt water on my skin, of waves buffeting me left and right, of small, sharp shells beneath my feet. I feel at home in myself, in my body, in my world, whenever I have a chance to swim in the sea. My most preferable way to swim in the sea is with as little clothes on as possible. I have very fond memories of jumping unclothed into the river that I grew up on the banks of as a teenager, of my best friend and I skinny dipping in the Atlantic Ocean under a full moon. Being myself in my body in the water feels incredible, feels pleasurable. I am a Cancer, after all. There is a knowing that my body has about the water, about how good it feels, a sensuousness that is present for me that might be present for you or might not. Each one of us experiences different sensations as pleasurable. We experience our sexualities and our bodies very differently. What feels good in my body may feel really different in yours. For me, swimming in the sea feels abundant, sensual, pleasurable, maybe even divine. I live here in New England, which means I haven't swum in the sea in a minute. It also means I am the spiritual inheritor, for better, although mostly for worse, of a culture founded in part by the colonization done by the Puritans. A people whose theology was intentionally and carefully divorced from their felt, embodied, and emotive experiences. The Puritans banned laughing in the streets. They also banned crying in public. Grief and joy were deemed too powerful. They were sort of famously prudish and anti-sex. They knew that a people in touch with their sexuality is a form of cultural and disruptive power. Echoes of this pleasure-forbidding ancestry reverberate around us. Sometimes they look like purity culture, which seeks to control people's ability to be in touch with their desire. Sometimes they look like restrictions, limitations, and shame around pleasure. I'm a rules-testing kind of girl. This has been my trouble and my saving grace my whole life. When something, particularly from my culture, is policed and repressed, I become very curious about that thing. If it wasn't so powerful, why would my culture be trying to restrict it? So I've learned from our friend Audre Lorde. Audre writes about the liberating power of the divine erotic. She defines the erotic as a measure between the beginnings of our sense of self and the chaos of our strongest feelings. A measure. This gives me an interesting roadmap for more clarity. When I know my own pleasure, I know myself better. When I know myself better, I embolden myself to better understand and attune to the chaos and beauty of my strongest feelings and of what they look like in the world. People in touch with their selves are powerful. Audre says, the erotic is an internal sense of satisfaction to which once we have experienced it, we know we can aspire. For having experienced the fullness and the depth of feeling and recognizing its power in honor and self-respect, we can require no less from ourselves, from our lives, from our work. So what I understand from Audre is that by using this measure, it ups the ante. The erotic asks more of us. asks us to aspire towards satisfaction, abundance, excellence, asks us to unpack, disentangle, and make sense of our strongest feelings and treat our bodily experiences and our pleasure as legitimate sources of information and power within our lives. And this can be a little inconvenient. I remember being an adolescent and beginning to realize that the desires of my body were leading me to a new understanding of a queer sexuality and identity. I remember having a crush on a girl and thinking, in maybe these words, "Oh man, this is really gonna mess up my life." Oh man. And instead, it made my life glitter and glow. It brought new color to everything, which did change my whole life and the whole world. She keeps me warm. So when I think about swimming in the sea and how pleasurable it is for me, and I think about how I've been trained by my culture not to see that pleasure as trustworthy, I decide one of the ways to combat it is to listen really carefully to the surprising eroticism that my body encounters with open water, and to treat this measure between my sense of self and my deepest feelings as true. And when I did, I learned something about God. What? Recently, I heard our friend, Karishma Gottfried, talk about her theology of God as water. All around us, within all, both ancient and brand new, nourishing, required for the creation of life, capable of great destruction. A metaphor and not a metaphor. When they described this to me, I realized that this idea is a theology that my body knows, that my brain has not quite caught up to yet. You don't know better than your heart knows. This sensuous feeling that I have swimming in the sea is telling me something about God. For Audrey, the erotic is sensation linked with deeper feeling. I feel a sensation of pleasure swimming in the sea, and it connects me with a deeper feeling that is love for the whole world. When I see the colors of a sunset painted across with red and orange from a rocky cliff, and it fills me with an unbelievable yearning, it is not unlike looking in the face of a lover. The tingling exhilaration that threads through my fingers and toes when I encounter a field of wildflowers painted purple and green and yellow is not dissimilar from the thrill when someone asks me on a date. These sensations, linked with deeper feeling, measure between myself and my deepest feeling, using my body's knowledge to make sense of things. To see that I have fallen so deeply in love with creation. And Robin Wall-Kimmerer asks me, is it possible that the world has fallen back in love with you too? And then the wind caresses my cheek and sends shivers of pleasure down my spine, and I know that the universe loves me back. I know what it feels like to be in love, what it does to my body and my mind. I have written as many sappy poems filled with water metaphors for ex-lovers as I have odes to pine trees and to meadowlarks. Feeling an irrevocable in-loveness with the world requires more of me. It asks of me Audrey's excellence. It recommits me to a stewardship and a care of my natural world. It invites me into deeper connection with those I love. It invites in me deeper empathy and compassion. I walked out of the sea last summer and sat on the sun-warmed rocks, calling my best friend giddy of glee and connection, wrapped in the love of the ocean, just telling her how much I loved her and how much I missed her. Our pleasure invites us into deeper harmony with each other, deeper longing for all people to have access to the pleasures of their bodies and their lives. It invites us into an abundance of knowing that we already have enough. And as my younger queer self found out, we are led there by the truthful, trustworthy information of our own erotic desire. So, I stretch out in the water. I let the sea air tangle my hair. I feel the gentle waves on my skin. And there, in my vast and ever-loving ocean, which loves me as much as I love it, there too I encounter myself. There too I encounter God. May we know that our pleasures and desires are trustworthy and truthful. May we allow those pleasures to lead us into deeper connection, deeper joy, deeper love. May it always be so.